So, welcome to episode 136 of the Campus Comics Cast. I am Scott Reed, who was not at San Diego Comic Con this weekend, but nevertheless, we're still going to talk about it a little bit. And I am joined on this episode by
Mike Atchison
and Shad Schubert.
And of course, we had originally scheduled to record this episode day one of San Diego Comic Con, and then things, primarily my internet connection, just kind of crapped out on us. So we have rescheduled this. So I had all these clever anecdotes about San Diego that now just fall flat. So I'm just going to skip it.
Oh, we're not going to hear them anyways.
No, I don't think it's worth it. So again, it's missed its opportunity. Its window is just passed. So I had like these notes about some of the early rumors and blah blah blah. But yeah, we're
Did
past
any of them come
stage.
true though?
Well, let's see. So the two that I had were about the first Marvel's X-Men movie was going to be titled just The Mutants.
Oh.
Right? And then the second one was that DC was going to make a Henry Cavill Superman announcement.
Oh,
and that one for sure did not come true. But and that's very unfortunate, but needless to say, we all have seen a little. I haven't actually sat down and poured through everything that came out of San Diego. Shad, have you seen a lot of news or anything out of San Diego yet?
Yeah, I've kind of, there's a great page on IGN that is everything that was announced, and it just has like a little blurb with a link to a video or a larger article. So that's a really good one to just kind of start with, because there were a lot of things, and it even goes into, Neil Gaiman would like to see a 1908 adaptation or something, like just little things that were said in panels, even that kind of show up in there. So that's probably the best thing I've seen so far to kind of cover the entire event itself.
Okay. I haven't even taken the time to look that up. Mike, what about you? Have you followed a bunch of the news from San Diego?
I was out of town this weekend, and I did catch myself a couple times. My Facebook feed just became inundated with, that kind of thing, which makes sense. And normally it doesn't have that much comic news, but with it being the SDCC weekend, it took it over. So I was looking at that a little bit, but it wasn't until about an hour ago that I started pouring through, actually seeing some of the trailers for the first time, some of the announcements. I'm pleasantly surprised that, coming, this is the first time after, in our post-COVID, semi-post-COVID world, that we have this kind of hype.
Yep. Yeah, we intend to do a much more in-depth go over of some of the news, probably on our episode after our upcoming previews episode. So that will probably be, this is 136, previews is 137. So probably on 138, we'll probably talk about Comic-Con and Doctor Strange. But for now, Shad, if you had to pick one or two big stories, things that have you excited from San Diego from last weekend, what would you say that would be?
Well, the big surprise one for me was I knew that we were going to have to get something about Black Panther 2, just because it's coming up so quickly. But the trailer we got and the story they're covering, just the images, the visuals, the music behind it, everything was just like, I want to see this movie more than I think any other movie that they had shown or talked about. I was super pumped about that one. So the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer that was released was my number one. And then we got a much larger Sandman trailer at Comic-Con. And if I was wavering at all that whether or not I thought I would like it, this was like the for sure. We got to see a lot of the dreaming. We got to see a lot of secondary characters in there. And so I was just even more excited about it. And we're just not even 2 weeks away from it, I don't think, at this point.
Yeah, August 6th or something like 5th. Okay,
yep.
Yeah. I knew it was real soon. So Well, Mike, what about you? What jumped out? What jumps out at you? From announcements from San Diego.
Well, the expected. I knew there was going to be an announcement about Dark Crisis, and it really wasn't that much of an announcement, except it really just firmed up the insinuation that they were going to resurrect the infinite Earths, the infinite multiverse, and that is a much better representation of these alternate worlds, I think, in the DC universe than what they've done in the 2 or 3 iterations in the past. So I was really excited about that. Seeing some of the images, you had, Golden Age Superman on that one cover or image. But the big spoiler, even though I know you said only 2, I could say 3, but I'm gonna just say 2 to stay within the rules. But
Well, you know what? If you can talk about 3, if you want to mention 3, it's okay. You have my permission.
We'll be talking a lot about 1, 2s, and 3s and 4s later. But okay, so the surprise was an announcement, a trailer for the Interview with the Vampire. And this is
I haven't watched this yet. Yeah.
And I am the biggest Anne Rice fan that I know personally. And I've read all the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicle novels. I've read the Witching Hour, the Mayfair Witches novels. And, I've been waiting for a better movie than what we got with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt back in the 80s for a long time. And seeing this was a huge surprise. And I don't even know how good it'll be, but I'm excited about the opportunity. And then the fanboy in me totally was excited watching the Black Adam trailer with all the Justice Society. It's not so much Black Adam as it is seeing some of those Justice Society characters. Everybody did you see Cyclone?
I have only watched one trailer so far. So yeah, it's on my list of things to do, is just sit down and take a few hours and just go through some of the info. So
yeah, you got Nucleon or / Atom Smasher. You got Hawkman, a couple other. They're very fleeting, but that was the most exciting part about the trailers. Except Shad, I'm glad you went first, because I was, of all the Marvel trailers, the Black Panther, that it's mysterious. It's like he leaves a lot open. I know it's just a teaser, but yeah. So anyway, hard stop right there.
All right, well, I am 100% agreeing with Shad on this one. Is the teaser trailer for Wakanda Forever is the best thing that I have seen coming out of San Diego so far. I am so ready for a return to the Marvel movies that we've had in the past, where they're a little bit more serious, not self, degradating, and that looks like they're going pretty hardcore serious with this Wakanda Forever trailer. The effects look great. The costume is amazing. You have all the key actors back. So I watched it and I was so pleased with what I saw. So I am ready for November.
Yes.
And I'm hoping it's one that I go see in the theater a couple of times, just because it's, and of course, just the whole everything, surrounding Chadwick Boseman as well. And I just saw recently that there was some hidden message about Chadwick Boseman in like some of the Wakandan dialogue that they had, like on some of the teaser scenes. So I need to dig into that just a little bit further to see what that was. But then of course I've got to mention Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, is that right? Coming back. And of course, we're probably going to see them in the Echo series before the Daredevil Born Again series. Somebody texted me and asked me, hey, did you see about Daredevil Born Again? I said, yeah. Then he said, did you see it's going to be 18 episodes? I was like, holy smokes. I had not seen that. So I'm almost scared it's gonna be too much.
Shad, have you read Born Again, that storyline?
I've read Born Again, but I actually haven't watched any of the Netflix Daredevil or the previous Daredevil series.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
that's the thing I got to catch up on before the end of next year, I guess. So I've got some time.
Yeah, it says spring of 2024 for
Okay.
for
So I got a
Daredevil
little
Born
time.
Again.
I got a little time.
Now he'll make an appearance. He's supposed to make an appearance in Echo, which is next summer.
Right.
But then you've got some time for Daredevil Born Again because it's not spring of 24. I've got what is this, phase 5, I guess. I think because Ant-Man starts off phase 5. I got the little image up here, so it shows Ant-Man, the Secret Invasion, Guardians of the Galaxy, Echo, Loki, Marvel's, Blade, Ironheart. I figured Blade would be sooner in this list than what it is. Agatha, Daredevil, Captain America, and Thunderbolts for phase 5. So
that was a pretty overall exciting thing, just to see the announcement again. It's been a while since we've seen a layout of a phase.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like, and actually seeing like, oh, there's the direction. And
I feel like phase 4 was just kind of like a epilogue or an intermission or something,
whatever we could get out.
Yeah, it's like so
Filler.
So it's nice to see a little bit of organization, in the phases again, like we had. So I actually went back and watched the first Iron Man movie just a few days ago, and it was just so nice after the nonsense of Thor to see something that was a little bit truer to what I want to see in these movies.
Right. Yeah.
So Wakanda just looks so incredible. So
and it's nice to have some positive things to talk about, think about, look forward to, and not. I was thinking about our last episode the other day about, gosh, we just probably spent too much time talking about it, because if it's that much negative, let's just not talk about the negative that much. Let's just minimize that, because I'm thinking there's so much good out there.
Yeah.
We should start emphasizing
the thing
that.
is like, people need to hear when something's crap. I think people want to know that.
Yeah,
I've actually had 2 or 3 people tell me they're not going to watch Thor now until they can watch it for free. Just because of the couple of comments that I've sent online,
true.
And if I can save people, I'll be your Huckleberry, and I'll be the one that throws the $10 at the movie and tell you if you should save your time, especially if you're a hardcore fan, because I know Aquaman 2, I'm gonna be there day one. As bad as Aquaman 1 was, I will be there for Aquaman 2 day one, and I'll complain about it the whole time, but I will be there.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, we're going to go into, I think, quite a bit more detail about San Diego in a couple of podcasts from now. But we just wanted to, while it was fresh, just kind of at least, we are aware that there was a big comic book convention.
That's right. Yeah.
And we have paid attention to some of the news from it. So. All right, so Ms. Marvel, hey, let's talk about this Disney Plus series. So, you know what? We didn't really talk about how we were going to go through this. All I have is like the IMDb one-liner for each episode. Does anybody have anything better than what I got?
I've got the Wikipedia, 6-sentencer, which might be a little bit long. I don't know.
Is it 6 sentences per episode?
Per episode, yeah.
Okay, well, if you want to do that, why don't you do that instead of me doing the one-liner? Get a little bit more detail about each episode. So
absolutely.
All right, so episode 1. Actually, I don't know. Do you want to say anything? Do we want to say anything before we start the episodes? Any initial thoughts? Like, for example, again, I think I said this when we did our episode 1 review, right? It was like, this is the Marvel character that I've known the least about that has gotten their own show. So hopefully that I guess I didn't go with a lot of preconceived notions about what I was expecting out of this character.
That's true, for sure.
So I guess sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I can understand what I know about the character and the changes they did to her power set, how that could upset some people. I think I understand why they did it, but overall I can see what they were doing there. So
for sure. I was just excited about something different and something that was giving us a little bit of an insight more into somebody that doesn't just look like me. So that was kind of cool to have more of that. But oddly, I thought they did a great job, and this is more of a review of the whole thing, but they did a great job making someone who isn't a white male in their 30s somehow still relate really well to this character and everything that they're going through. But yeah, that's kind of I'm the same. I didn't know a lot about it, but was very excited. With the way they were selling it was great. The trailer was exciting. It was just something to build up for.
And I know that the song in the initial teaser that they did for that one, which was, now I said that I can't remember what it is, and I'll look it up while you're going through the first, going through the first episode, because I have it. Even that even increased my interest, in this show. Marvel, for the most part, has done a pretty good job with music and making it lead more into the show. So, Mike, did you have any initial thing after you unmute?
I don't want to hear you. I don't want you guys to hear me coughing or anything. So I think I should wait till afterwards to list my pros and cons. There's nothing I can say as a preface.
Cool. All right. So on episode 1, we have Kamala Khan, who is a 16-year-old high schooler and fangirl of the Avengers, particularly Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. After failing a driving test, Kamala and her best friend Bruno finished her Captain Marvel cosplay for AvengerCon while avoiding her strict parents. Kamala receives a package from her grandmother, Sana, that includes a golden bangle, which her mom says is junk. After failing to convince her parents to let her go to AvengerCon, Kamala sneaks out with Bruno to attend and takes the bangle as part of her cosplay. After getting there and dressing up, she puts on the bangle, and it causes her to project constructs of cosmic energy. I don't know why that was so hard. This inadvertently causes havoc, during which Kamala uses her powers to save her classmate Zoe. Bruno rushes Kamala home, where her distraught mom pleads with her to focus on her own life. In a mid-credits scene, the Department of Damage Control agents P. Clary and Sadie Deaver watch a video of Kamala's incident at AvengerCon and head to New Jersey to find and detain her.
Blinding Lights was the song by
that was good. That was a good choice.
Was it This Weekend? Is that the actual name?
The Weekend.
The Weekend. Yeah, The Weekend. Okay, sorry. Yep. Misread that. This Weekend on Ms. Marvel. No. One thing that I really enjoyed and they established it early in this first episode was that family dynamic between that the whole, and it's like you're peering through the windows of a Pakistani immigrant family, and it was definitely a fresh take. You got the overprotective mother, the father who's sometimes feels like he's just kind of there, but he just kind of yes whatever the mother says. It's one of those things you can joke about somebody wearing the pants in the family type of a situation from that episode. But that was established quickly and early. And and it was just I other than times where I'm like, you're obviously your moments where you're thinking about the mother, it's like you really need to back off a little bit. but I think that's what they want you to see in this series, and then how that all resolves itself as the series progresses is also well done. So now, I talked about the power set changing, and that was established pretty early here.
Right.
They really switched her powers to like this hard light manipulation.
Light energy, yeah.
Whereas opposed in the comics, she really just kind of has stretchy powers for the most part, I'm assuming they did this to save money on CGI. But
I was wondering if it, I mean, knowing that, because I'm assuming they think a little bit further ahead in this too, is that so we have this show, and then next year she's going to be in the Marvels, and then the next year Fantastic Four comes out, and if she had an identical set of powers to Reed Richards, that may be a little bit not confusing, but to be like, well, how did she get him from this, and then he got him from this other thing, and so maybe they chose it intentionally because of that as well.
Well, in my opinion, you're giving them more credit than they probably thought that through. But I like your idea that they are really thinking ahead. So
I say you can never have too many stretchy heroes.
That's true.
and as far as her, I won't say much about episode 1 except this was one of the highlights of the what was it, 6 episodes. I enjoyed this episode as an intro. I didn't know much about her except what I'd seen in covers of books, and you could see kind of what her power set was. That she was less stretchy, where she was kind of like Elastigirl on the Doom Patrol. She could stretch and increase her size, kind of in you know. But this you're talking about her power set. It reminds me, and I know this is going to completely blow by you guys, or at least Shad, but it reminds me of the Crystal. It's just 30, 40-year-old DC obscurities. Right. The Teen Titan named Cole, Kole. She was part of the Teen Titans, created by Marv Wolfman, just to kill off in Crisis on Infinite Earths, because Marv was asking everybody, all of these writers to kill off characters that they maybe didn't want to. Well, Marv figured he better kill off someone too, so he created Cole just for that. And that was her power set, and she was I thought she was a good character, even though she only appeared in maybe just a handful of Teen Titans books. But that's what these Captain Marvel powers remind me of so much, so much. And it's a good thing. I like it. It's probably more unique than it looks more like crystals than light constructs to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's more unique than stretchy powers.
Yeah. Yeah, because she uses it later on even as a protective shield a couple of times.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
It does make it a kind of a cooler, especially visually.
Yeah, and they do give it where she increases her size using that effect and stuff, and of course it lengthens her arm, and even in this first episode, so they kind of give the same end result. It's just a different way to go about getting there. So,
all right, episode 2. So Kamala begins training to control her powers with Bruno, who deduces that the Bengal activated powers that Kamala already had within her. Kamala, Bruno, and their friend Nakia attend a party organized by Zimmer where they meet a new senior, Cameron. I already forgot his name. Cameron, who Kamala befriends. Bruno becomes frustrated when Kamala chooses to spend time with Cameron instead of training. After seeing a vision of a mysterious woman, Kamala asks Sana and her mom about her great-grandmother, Aisha, the Bengals' original owner. They have everybody's actual names in here instead of mom, grandma, and everything, and I'm converting them because I don't want to mangle their names. Yusuf says Sana lost her way during the partition of India, but was mysteriously able to find her father again. After questioning Zimmer about her savior at AvengerCon, Clary and Deaver, who are from the Damage Control, order a sweep of the tri-state area targeting South Asian communities. At the celebration, a young boy slips from the mosque balcony and almost falls before Kamala saves him with her powers. Kamala is chased by the Damage Control agents led by Deaver, but is saved by Cameron, who introduced her to his mother, the woman in Kamala's vision.
This was my least favorite of all 6 episodes.
It's a little slow.
Yeah, and I think it's just because it was the high school teen angst, teen boy meets girl type of thing for 75% of the episode, and then it had a really, really solid ending. The ending with her escaping from Damage Control, meeting the mother of the boy, finding out that yes, it wasn't just coincidence that they had met each other. Was a solid ending to a really borderline episode for me. So if I felt like I was going to get that for the rest of the series, I would not have been in a rush to finish it. I don't want Riverdale Ms. Marvel or CW Ms. Marvel. I
like Riverdale, Scott.
I apologize, then. I retract. I haven't watched Riverdale. I'm just making an assumption about what.
Oh,
Riverdale's
it's trashy
about.
A little bit. It is.
Okay, all right.
Well, I did literally fall asleep in this episode.
Okay, so you agree with me then, is what you're saying?
I do. I agree with you on this one. Yeah.
Did you once you made it to the end couple of scenes, were you able to stay awake through the end couple of scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't sleep through the entire whatever hour or whatever it was, 45 minutes, but it was a snooze fest for me, and for all those reasons. And even though I'm a DC guy, I cannot stand the CW. So
there was a lot of information passing in here that didn't get highlighted as important, but becomes important later, like
Mhm.
the vision and the everything with the partition, and even down to the how her grandma found her way to her dad during the partition. Like all of that is like super important stuff that I'm thankful they highlight again later on in the series, because it really kind of gets passed over in this episode, it seems like.
Okay, now the friend's name was Nakia, is that right? I'm trying to remember what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the cast for this all around was good.
Oh yeah.
Solid. If there's I really don't look at any single of the main characters if like any of them didn't deserve to be in the show and didn't do a really, really good job. And I read online that the actor who played Bruno was actually considered to be Spider-Man instead of Tom Holland.
Well, the actor who played Bruno is I don't know if you guys watch Walking Dead at all, but he was a main character in Walking Dead for 3 or 4 seasons.
Really?
What's his name? What was his name in Walking Dead?
I don't remember. He was remember when Carol had like the adopted kid that the leader of the Whispers took his head off and put it on a stake. And
yeah, okay.
That's the kid. He's the kid.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. I had no idea that was.
I was like, he looks familiar. And then I finally looked it up, and I was like, oh, that's insert name here. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, a lot younger than.
Yes,
so,
yeah. He's grown up a little bit.
No, I didn't know that. So.
But yeah, they're all awesome.
I did like how they have the starting of the, when somebody didn't say what their hero name is and everybody else is forced to try to come up with names, and you get these terrible names like Nightlight and stuff.
Nightlight, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed her mom, though. The woman that played Zenobia Shroff played Kamala Khan's mom, and I enjoy her, and I've seen her in other stuff. I just don't know what.
Okay.
But I enjoyed her portrayal. I just enjoyed her acting.
Yeah, her and Kamala together, I could have watched just a show of the two of them. Like no superpowers even needed.
Yes.
And you are sitting there like going, oh, lighten. You're just like willing her through the screen to lighten up a little bit. And
yeah.
But yeah, it was still so good. So.
All right, episode 3. I do have to pronounce a name here. I'm hoping that's right. Najma, who is Kamran's mom. We're going to go with Najma, Najma. Explains that she and Kamran are part of a group of 5 enhanced beings known as the Clandestines, who claim to be jinns that were exiled from the Noor dimension. That's a lot of words in one sentence that are like, say what?
Well, there's all those words that, when Alec Guinness was doing Star Wars, he made fun of, talking about all these made up words that he had to say. So, yeah.
Najma says Aisha was also a clandestine and asks for Kamala's help in using the bangle to let them return to the Noor dimension. Kamala agrees, but Bruno warns her that the interdimensional travel could be dangerous. Duh. So she asks Kamran for more time to ensure that they can do it safely. Kamran agrees, but an impatient Najma decides to force Kamala to help them. Kamala's brother, Amir, marries his fiancée, but Kamran crashes the wedding to warn Kamala before the other clandestines arrive. Kamala, Bruno, and Kamran are overpowered while Najma tries to use the bangle, which triggers the vision of the train. The damage control agents arrive and capture the clandestines, including Kamran. As Kamala and Bruno escape, Nakia sees Kamala using her powers. Sana contacts Kamala, revealing that she also saw the vision of the train, and insists that Kamala and her mom visit her in Karachi.
So there's a scene in this episode where the father goes to Bruno's parents' shop and buys a Hostess fruit pie.
Uh-huh.
And somebody actually, I wish I could remember who it was that I saw posted this. I like to give credit where credit was due. I didn't notice this till somebody else pointed it out. But for years in comic books, there was every single month there was a Hostess pie ad in every single
Marvel and DC.
Mm-hmm. And so that was a really, really nice deep cut for fans. It's just like one of those, oh my gosh, yes, they put that in there. So
That's awesome.
I'm glad you kept calling them the clandestines, because I would have just called them the Jinn, the Jinn.
Yeah.
But what's funny is there's actually a group in Marvel called the Clandestines. They actually were created by Alan Davis. And they are back from Marvel Comics Presents issue 158. They have no relationship to this group.
Oh,
Absolutely none. So just the same
they
name.
just use the word.
It's exactly. So probably it's a little bit of a I don't know, what do we call a red herring, I guess. Is that the right phrase to kind of throw you off a little
Distract
bit?
you,
Yeah. So
All right, were being anywhere in Ms. Marvel comics, are the Jinn, are they part of her history or this storyline in the comics? No,
I wouldn't know
I do
either.
not know.
I mean, they're genies. That's where it's. I mean, that's what genie comes. It's an anglicized version of Jinn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where the first time I came across that word was like the fifth dimension, where Mr. Mitsopidlik is from. All the genies and that bunch. So interesting. But this was I like this episode because of the incorporation of the clandestines and the Jinn, and bringing in some of that supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
4.
All right, episode 4. Kamala and her mom travel to Karachi and reunite with Sana, who reveals to Kamala that the Bengal is trying to convey a message through the vision of the train. The next day, a masked Kamala goes to the Karachi train station. There we go. To investigate, but is attacked by Kareem, a member of the Red Daggers vigilante group, who initially mistakes her for one of the clandestines. Kareem takes Kamala to the Red Daggers hideout, where Kamala learns from their leader, Walid, that the clandestines are trying to break the Veil of Noor, which separates the Noor dimension from the human world, in order to expand and take over. The clandestines escape the damage control Supermax prison, but Najma abandons Kamran for his betrayal. Kamala begins training with the Red Daggers to master her powers, but they are interrupted by the clandestines. A chase ensues, during which Walid kills one of the clandestines before Najma kills him in turn. As Kamala and Kareem fend off the clandestines, Kareem kills one of them, and Najma accidentally stabs the Bengal, sending Kamala back to the partition.
So in The Watchmen starts out with this event in Oklahoma in the early 1900s, which I don't think that I had ever heard of.
Right.
And here in Ms. Marvel, we get kind of a similar situation. I think this is something that I did know about. I do remember reading about this in history books, but it's one of those facts that you just you hear once and you kind of dismiss.
Right.
And I love this incorporation of the history into this character's origin. And I just really liked that.
The difference, I think, is that in the Watchmen, the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre was, I don't know if deliberately is the right word, but it was avoided deliberately in history to cover up the fact that this was a white on black massacre. This was not some race riot like some people would call it.
Well, it's like whitewashing of history, right?
Yeah, whitewashing, exactly. Yeah. Whereas the partition was sort of like a Civil War type thing. There were a lot of British colonies or French or Dutch or whatever colonies that before they gained independence, there was some civil strife or whatever. So that I don't think that there was as much deliberation in that in the partition as in that. But still, I get just what you're saying is that this was history that we didn't know about.
Right.
And it's good to see it even though it's fictionalized a bit here, it's good to see it.
Well,
Well,
this is something that I heard of. It's not something I thought about in a long time, So it's
Yeah.
good to have that, that little reminder, and to, kind of think about the cost. Because actually, there was an episode of Doctor Who, even the Jodie Whittaker ones in the last couple of years, that actually was focused around this time of the partition as well.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
about that. This was a little bit when they didn't have the whole, train thing, which I can completely imagine that happening, whether I assume that it probably did, but to that degree, you never know. But it was just nice to have that perspective on the events. So
Yeah.
yeah. I like how I can learn some history in a way that is easily attainable and is just it's in something I'm already watching. Just watching a documentary typically doesn't do it for me, but to be educated on stuff like this, like you said, it isn't necessarily probably to the T. Like there wasn't Miss Marvel wasn't there showing up to guide people to where they need to go. But it is still important to know and remember these things and what kind of effects they have on the families and everything.
And then this also introduced the Red Dagger.
Yes.
This is a character actually from the Ms. Marvel comics. First shows up in issue number 12 of Ms. Marvel. So
cool. Episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in India, 1942, Aisha takes refuge in a village where Hassan, an Indian independence activist, offers her food and shelter. They fall in love and have a child, Sana. 5 years later, Najma finds Aisha and orders her to retrieve the bangle. Aisha leaves it with Sana and attempts to flee to the new nation of Pakistan with her family. But Najma finds and stabs her. Hassan and Sana are separated in the chaos. Kamala is able to interact with Aisha, who asks her to guide Sana before dying. Conjuring a projection of stars to lead Sana to her father, Kamala realizes that she was the one who reunited them per the stories her parents had told of that night. Returning to the present, Kamala finds that Najma's strike had opened the veil of Noor, but it vaporized anyone who interacts with it. Najma transfers her power to Kamran before sacrificing herself to close the veil. Sana and her mom find Kamala, and the latter accepts her daughter's powers. Kamran seeks refuge with Bruno, where they are both attacked by the damage control drone. Kamran destroys it, and the ensuing explosion obliterates the store below them. The circle Q, right?
Yes. I'm sorry, I was reading something online as you were going through that, and you talked about how they closed we're in episode 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about how they closed that access to the veil, right?
The veil. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you got one thing that I really liked about this series is they didn't wait until the episode 6 to close all of the plot lines.
Right. Yes.
So we actually here in 5 we get the resolution to the Jinn, to the clandestine for the most part here in episode 5. So we can focus in on damage control for episode 6. That was my big complaint about Hawkeye, was not 1, not 2, but 3 storylines all get concluded in that last big fight. And it would have been nice to spread that out just a little bit, So I really appreciate it.
It was felt for sure. I was like, oh, cool. We're done with that. We wrapped that up while we were in Pakistan, and we're able to go, okay, that part's done. We can go see what's going on at home now.
I think that's all I got on 5. So
I don't know if this is a good time to mention, but the woman that played Aisha, she was her name was I'm looking on the list here. Starts with an M. Anyway, she was they were looking at her to play Wonder Woman.
Really?
Oh, okay. Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see it. She's just stunning, really. But Yeah, I just read that after seeing the movie, and I was looking at all the different actors and stuff, and her she was made the short list to play the character, I guess, to play Wonder Woman, but Gal Gadot beat her out. So I thought that was a neat little piece of trivia.
Yeah. So and we're probably all on the same plane with this, but maybe this goes past Miss Marvel lore. The Noor dimension, is that in Marvel lore outside of Miss Marvel?
I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't have any idea on for sure. I mean, I'm not familiar with having heard it outside, but there's been so much stuff. It could have been mentioned in like some random one or two issues of something,
And is the Noor assumed to be, when they say another dimension, is it another planet on another dimension, or is it Earth but in another dimension? Is it just it was kind of just kind of mysteriously the dimension of Noor, but I didn't know if it was, if
no idea.
You guys took it any further than that at all.
I took it as just as an alternate dimension that kind of existed just out of sync with ours. And if that gateway had been
not a whole nother universe, it's like
and then then it would have just
the Phantom Zone, and not the Phantom Zone.
That's what I was kind of I went
Yeah.
Phantom Zone with it too, yeah.
Because like they said, that was the thing, they couldn't open it up because then it would have wiped out what was already here. So it's I don't know. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into that.
Right.
I just kind of accepted it and moved on. So
well, I kind of went into and I wasn't picking up that when Najma had died, that when she went into that she was doing it intentionally to close the veil. And so I was thinking, well, we show their bodies kind of becoming, ash or whatever. But is that just them leaving their bodies, and did they actually survive? And maybe that's something we see. Do we see these characters in the clandestines come back later, potentially, and that they didn't actually die? They just left their mortal body and went into the Noor dimension, but it just, to us, it seemed like they died. I don't know.
I'm going to assume that they died because she transferred her power.
That's true. Good point.
That's how I am taking that. And then I'm on, what website is this? HITC. I don't even know what that stands for. And it says, and what's bad is I was searching for NORD. It's like, why can't I find anything as opposed to NOOR?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It says does not exist in Marvel Comics and was ushered in for Ms. Marvel. So,
okay.
Yeah. According to, again, if this website is accurate.
And what did you think about the time traveling? Did that seem a little bit too convenient the way they did that?
If they hadn't had set kind of that up a little bit with the vision of the train in the prior episodes, and then of course the grandmother having saw the vision as well, I really think that but I feel like they gave us enough that we could see it coming. Plus, when she puts on the bangle the first time, she kind of does that fallback to something else.
Yeah.
And we know
it was enough to suspend disbelief. It just sort of reminded me of the old comic books where, just everybody could travel time if they, they wiggled their nose just right.
Yeah.
But that's just a minor thing.
Yeah, no, and I definitely could. Obviously, you can nitpick that a bunch if you wanted to, and I chose not to nitpick it at all. Which is odd for me, coming from me, right? So.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
All right, episode 6, final episode. Bruno and Kamran go on the run from the damage control, and Deaver orders a citywide lockdown to find them. Kamala crafts a disguise using a gift from her mother and a mask made by Bruno before reuniting with Bruno and Kamran. With the help of Nakia, Amir, and Zimmer, the group stalls the damage control agents. Clary orders a retreat, but Deaver ignores him and leads a detachment of agents in storming the school where Kamala and her friends are hiding. That's a large detachment of agents. The agents arrest everyone except for Kamala and Kamran, who confronts Deaver. She attacks him, but Kamala fights off the agents and allows all of her friends to escape. Deaver flees and is later relieved of her duty by Clary. Kamala becomes a beloved figure of her community and takes on the superhero name Ms. Marvel, after her father explains that her name means Marvel. Kamran flees to Pakistan and meets Kareem, as arranged by Kamala. Bruno later tells Kamala that she possesses a genetic mutation with which the rest of her family lacks. In a mid-credits scene, the Bengal emits a strange glow, and then Kamala switches places with Carol Danvers.
So, do we have our first official mutant in Marvel Comics or Marvel's
That's what I
Cinematic
thought.
Universe?
That's what I thought.
I believe so.
So I think that's what they're setting it, which is kind of odd that because they didn't come. He got interrupted going through that description there in the episode. So it's like, I think that's what they're hinting at here. They don't come out and say it.
Yes,
that's what they're hinting at. So
a mutation, very specific word.
Now, what I really liked in this episode was that we got a comic book accurate costume in the end.
Oh yeah,
it was made by her mother, has all of this great tie. That being said, there are already not screenshots, but there are photos from the sets of Marvels, and she has a different costume.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, and they have to explain why she's wearing a different costume. If they go into that movie and don't explain why she's wearing a different costume, they blundered big time, because that's the next time we're going to see her, as far as I know, is in Marvels. And that she was so excited and proud that it was given to her by her mother. And if they just dismiss that because it's a movie instead of a TV show,
that'd be a travesty.
That's a big mistake. So
well, they have to also set up and explain the fact that Carol Danvers is now in Kamala's house. What does that all look like at the beginning of a movie? Because that's an interesting place to start a movie. Is in a Freaky Friday almost kind of set up. Because I'm assuming Kamala is now wherever Carol Danvers was, whether it was on planet or off planet, who knows where.
That's true.
And maybe that's why Kamala has to get a different outfit, because she's in space now and she needs something that's gonna allow her to do that. So I guess they got plenty of opportunity to kind of explain it away, but that sucks that's already gonna go away, because I do like that costume for her.
And there's been I don't know what it is about all these movies where they just can't do a comic book accurate costume. It's like I don't know what they're forget the comics had a different color palette. You don't have to have it the exact same color, but it can still be, representative of the original costume. It's like in WandaVision, the Scarlet Witch costume looked great whenever they did a whole Halloween episode. And, and Patsy Walker as Hellcat, in one of the Jessica Jones seasons, the split second. Now, the Luke Cage costume that they did looked ridiculous whenever he did his original costume. Right. But they had it hanging off of him like it was way too big, so it was just, it can be done right, and they did it right here, and now they're going to undo it, I think, in the movie. So I just love the fact that this was a story-driven series. It wasn't making fun of itself the entire time. It was, respectful to the characters and to the original material. I had a pretty good time watching this. So, I enjoyed it overall. So,
absolutely. I mean, I know we talked about the family dynamic and everything there. And now that we're at the end of it, the growth that they have, especially the mom, throughout this, and that you had said you're hoping that she can just relax a little bit and she can back off, and she finally by the end is just has accepted that Kamala's different and that it's okay that she's got her own life, and it's gonna be her way, and it's okay to just support her in that. And I was just like, that's awesome. That's a good kind of good feeling story to it all.
Well, Mike, I know you had a pros and cons list, so why don't you give us that?
Yeah, I mean, it was episode 6 really did make up for a lot of my cons. No pun intended, not KHAN, CON. I mean, it started out being kind of teeny bopper to me, a bit boring, a little predictable. I feel like they didn't capitalize on the Jin as much as they could have. I have my notes here saying this and that. One thing that I'll stick by as a negative is the wedding vows that her brother Amir. I thought that was the corniest, sappiest. It was just, oh god. But and the vague time travel, which I already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
However, the pros, especially, it's like they really ramped up in 4, 5, and 6 in increments, and to make up for some of my standoffishness on this. I like the idea of having damage control. I'm kind of new to this whole idea, but I like having this department that's in there doing. Although I thought, what's her name, Deaver. She was a little bit over the top on her acting. Even though I love the actress, she was in Orange Is the New Black. She was the deputy warden. I loved her in that. I didn't really like her in this. I thought it was a little bit like, no, that's not really what would happen. But overall, I like the idea of that department. I thought Aisha, not just the woman that played her, which was the Mawish Hayat. I finally found that her Kamala's great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But the character itself, I thought was really compelling. Like you said, Scott, the new outfit, man, that was where it just the home run, I thought. So in general, at the end, you're like, I really like this Kamala Khan. I really like this character. And to me, if you walk away with good feelings, then it was a success. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like too not having like this global catastrophic event that then you're like, okay, if that's going on, where's like
everybody
in Eternals,
else?
like in Eternals at the end, where's all the rest of the superheroes? The Earth is being destroyed and you don't see any of the other heroes, Here it's localized and it makes sense, and it was I just thought it was pretty well done and well thought out for the 6, other than for me the second episode. And
I thought it's pretty good storytelling to just the villains, if you want to call them that, the clandestines and the damage control almost didn't need to be there, but only to kind of challenge Kamala to build up her confidence and her abilities. But other than that, like, your villains were kind of done, which felt good to just like, it did feel like these 6 episodes could just be whatever it was. It's an introduction to a character, and it's not going, okay, what's the ongoing threat that we have to deal with? They were there to challenge her, to lift her up, and move on, kind of a thing.
To see her come into her own with these powers at the end was really cool. I mean, because before it was like, oh gosh, is that crystal stepping stone going to hold up?
Because that's all she had.
Worried, you were stressing out. Like if it was your kid, if you got a teenage daughter, and I'd be like, come on, you can do it, But then at the end, she's like, all right, you can just relax because she's got this.
That's right.
That I liked. Yeah.
I was surprised on IMDb to see that this only scored like a 6.2 on average.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I feel like that is ridiculously low for this series. I think it deserves better than that. I'm my initial rating on this is a very fine 8.0, and I really think I probably should go a little bit higher, but I'm trying to remember like what I'm grading other things at and how it kind of fits in. At some point I probably need to write down like my list and go over all my scores for everything and put it in comparison there. But I graded it, that to me, like on the comic side, that's something that I, want to own and want to recommend to other people. So I feel like it's there. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic rating is actually a 98.
Oh, wow.
With the audience score being an 82. So I guess we're talking to different people. That I think is more reflective and more where that series should actually be at. So Thad, what did you grade it at?
I graded it at a 9.2, near met minus. I really enjoyed this. I agree. I would definitely highly recommend this to anybody, even if you aren't, you don't have to be caught up in the whole MCU. This is a good just jumping off point, but something that you can then explore into. You've got a movie to look forward to with the Marvels. You can go back and watch Captain Marvel. There's it's a good jumping off point to kind of get an introduction to it. And I do remember at some this started halfway through the Obi-Wan series, and they ran simultaneously, on the same day they would release on the Wednesdays. And I think that they said that hurt it a lot.
It had half the viewership of what Hawkeye had during the first however many days or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure that has to do with people just weren't jumping. And if you're 3 episodes behind, there's a lot of people that aren't likely to even play catch up even on 3 episodes. So I guess that kind of could have hurt it too.
Well, they need to if they're following the Marvel Cinematic at all. They need to get on. Mike, what about you?
Well, if I were to grade each episode individually and then average them out, it would be lower. But this was, I think, an instance where the overall ending, it was greater than the sum of its parts.
There you go.
So I would have probably given it a 7 or 7.5, but I'll give it an 8.5. It's a very, very fine plus. It had a couple things that it wasn't really that it was badly made in some areas, but some things just wasn't for me. So, I mean, and that's it's not you, it's me, that type of thing.
Yeah, for you, it's probably the same thing it is for me. It's like some of the teen, high school, angsty stuff. I just like, I don't want to relive that. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. Overall, still great stuff. So.
Yep. All right. So next up, we've got a ComiXology original called 40 Seconds, written by Jeremy Hahn. Art by, who was the artist?
Christopher Mitten.
Yeah. There, I got the page right here that has all their. And I slid past it. Why can't I zoom in? There we go. Colorist Brett Weldel. Letterer Thomas Moyer. So let's see. Mike, you said you had a write-up for this?
Yeah, I did. I'd actually put the work in.
Hey.
For change.
Your voice kind of hold out to go through this?
Oh, yeah, I think it will. I've just made it this long.
Then hit it.
All right. So 40 Seconds is a ComiXology original. I don't know if it came out in individual issues through ComiXology or if it came out as the trade. Did it? Okay. Yep. But it's a science fiction / fantasy adventure. And Scott listed the creators, but it's 5 issues long. And so getting into the first issue here, there were 4, count them 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's their literal names. Astronauts and adventurers. One, the guy named One. He's sort of like the de facto leader, and there's a little foreshadowing of a shoulder injury he received, depending on your perspective, because this is a little bit time bending, mind bending. At first you think it's time, but it may not be time. 2 is kind of like the heart of the team. She's a single mother of a little girl. And then 3 and 4 they kind of show hints right off the bat. When I read this like 3-4 times, because A, I enjoyed it, and B, I wanted to really make sure I understood it. But 3 and 4, they show these hints of a romantic relationship. And they're all on a mission to investigate a mysterious distress signal from a 4 million light years away star or planet using what they're calling forge gates, which you can call stargates or you can call transporters, whatever you want, but they call them.
Is that what Stargate is? Like the show Stargate? Is that what that is? Essentially the same thing?
Yeah. And they just warp through.
Never seen that.
So this. Yeah, I haven't in a while, but Forge Gate technology allows them to planet hop basically from one gate to the next, bringing them closer to this ultimate target, which was, like I said earlier, a distress signal. So each gate.
Mike, I do want to back you up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the very first page of this story is you have a dream / vision from One. We find out it's from One. Of this planet and this woman that is beckoning to him. And it just says it's just 3 panels. see this world. It says 40 seconds. There's this image of this woman. She says, please. And then it says 40 seconds. And then it says, help us. And then 1 wakens to kind of where you started your discussion. So that's important just for the ending.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I sort of glossed over that, but that's the distress signal. Is that what this first page is talking about is a woman that's sort of floating, and this is very ethereal landscape. The art is designed this way, I think, to make it seem very intangible. But this woman's reaching out for help. So that's the bookend. That's the front book of the book, or the front bookend. And we'll talk about the back bookend here later. But as this team, which they don't really even recognize the fact that it's weird that they go by 1, 2, 3, and 4, and even the reader doesn't think that's weird at first, because you think, well, it's the future, it's science fiction, maybe everybody's a number now. I don't know, but they're kind of having their conversations and cooking their last breakfast before they go out on this mission, using each other's numeric names. So as they go through each gate, the first gate, each gate brings its own mystery and different kind of conflict or tension, and even beautiful locale. And wherever they jump to, they usually have to travel on foot a few kilometers to get to the next gate. So that's where you get usually your conflict or your interesting content between gates. When they activate a gate, it triggers a horde of baddies, bad guys, zombies, whatever you want to call them, trying to stop them. And at the very first gate, we learn that's where the 40 seconds comes from. It takes 40 seconds for that gate to make the transfer. Am I right there? Technicality people, am I getting that right?
Why are you looking at me?
Because you're the technicality guy.
Oh, that's how I interpret it as well.
Okay.
It's basically this 40-second window that they have to get through the gate, before it closes they never really say I just say an indeterminate amount of time. So.
Yeah. So it's like it builds the tension, the conflict, whatever, gives opportunity for the bad guys to stop them from getting through the gate. So you got 40 seconds, nail biting seconds. And at the first gate, number 1 gets a spear chucked into his shoulder, which is the payoff sort of from the earlier foreshadowing, which I couldn't believe I actually picked up on that the first read. I was like, oh, I know why his shoulder hurts. So after he gets hit by the shoulder or hit by the spear, he gets through the gate. When they get to the new locale, 3, who's kind of like the medic of the group, he's got these shots, and there's a little pick line or whatever that they basically is magical shots to cure pain or injuries or whatever, and he fixes one shoulder. So on the next world, or actually on this world, this is the second world, they pick up these 2 survivors of that world, basically the last 2 people. It's kind of an Asian setting, little like gardens. It's beautiful, and the girl's name's Gaia, which I think is the name of Mother Earth, isn't it? Isn't that some sort of reference to Earth? And her uncle Arn, who's turns out to be terminally ill. Also on this Earth, or on this world, they find an old astronaut's outfit or suit with a name tag on it that says Barnes.
And we know from early on, when they were going through the gate the first time, that this is not the first attempt to go through the gates. Now, I think we're led to believe that this is the second attempt.
Yes.
That's how I took the story. There was one group before, and you're the second group. Your goal is to get to all these gates. Mm-hmm. If you can find stuff about the previous team, that's great, but that's not the focus of what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's definitely detail. How they set it up. Yeah,
that's a good detail, because it turns out to be something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, because when they find this costume here, they note that it doesn't look like it's a few years old, but decades old. This
right. They're like, because if they're thinking that there's only one mission that went before them, one quartet that went before them, it wouldn't look this old. So yeah, there's a little already. They're thinking this doesn't seem right.
Because according to the original, it's only been 4 years since the original distress call. is
That's
the other
true.
detail to it. So
That's true.
the fact that this is aged even older than that even sets up more of this mystery.
Yeah. That's points I didn't even after reading it 3 times. So on their third jump, they go to a world it's a ice world basically. It's got earthquakes or quakes. And number 2, she's the one that's the heart of the team, I think. She's got the daughter. She falls. We're crossing an ice bridge. There was an earthquake, and she falls to her death. And I have to admit, it was a pretty shocking scene. You're like, wow, they kind of kept going back to that scene of her falling, which anybody that's ever seen Die Hard, you kind of know the look that he's that Alan Rickman's giving. Did you know in that movie that Alan Rickman really didn't know that they were going to let him go like that, and that's why he looked that scared?
Oh,
Really?
okay. No.
Yeah, he thought he was going to be on like a line or something. But anyway, so anyway, they're on this ice world. Number 2 falls to her death, and communications start. They're trying to stay in control with. I guess I just keep calling mission control. They don't work all the time, and this is where you start getting the idea that mission control's lying to them about stuff and making them kind of giving the impression that this team is expendable, and the mission is the absolute only thing they should concentrate on. Any comments on that?
Should mention when they left the second world, the same thing happened. They activated the gate. This shadow horde descends upon them. They're just able to get through prior to the gate closing, which will become a common theme.
Yes. And for the sake of brevity, I didn't really get into each step by step what happened. Count on you guys filling in some of these observations. So on the next jump, which is another 40 seconds, they arrive on this beautiful world of giant trees. We see that Arn is nearing death. He's getting sicker, and Gaia finds a pet. All I can say is call it Key, or it's spelled QI. That looks kind of like part pink frog and part squirrel. And number 1 defies mission control, saying they will protect their new additions to the team, which, mission control was like, this is going to mess up whatever their objectives are. Having these additional people, Arn and Gaia, is going to mess things up. So number 1's like, no, too bad. We're going to keep them with us and protect them.
Because it seemed like almost, and I don't know, this is what I kind of picked up on it, was that the jumps through the portals are almost, they're measured for the amount of people they have, because at one point they even land in a spot where they're not supposed to, and they ask how many people, like, well, what's changed, and like, well, we've got 2 other people we picked up, and they're like, you can't have that. And I wonder if that, like, there's something to do with the way that the transport works,
the mass. The mass of the total mass of them. Right. Okay.
I totally missed that.
Me too.
That's why we're all here together. We get it. We get it in.
That's right. 3 minds. So as they make the jump to the next world, Arn, having juiced up on the meds to keep the pain away, he pretty much pulls he's a protectorate of his world to begin with. He's like the ultimate warrior, and he protects them from the hordes attacking them during the jump. However, one of the horde makes it through the jump with them. And I have to tell you right now, some of the art isn't good enough for me to follow. It took me a lot of really trying to focus on the panel by panel to understand what was going on.
The action scenes get a little messy.
Yeah, they do. But finally, I think, so correct me if your impression is wrong, but I think that one horde makes it through the jump with them, and he turns out to be what I'd call a zombified number 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before they recover from that shock, a non-zombified version of 2, who 2 is the one that fell to her death earlier. Mm-hmm. This a non-zombified version of her shows up, and along with a deformed version of 3, kind of like he's all beat up and his head's all swollen or something. And they're on the good guy side.
I don't think you're supposed to realize it's 3 immediately. I think that's one reason why he's so deformed, is that you recognize 2, and you're so focused on 2 because you know she just died.
Yeah.
So, and I think what you're actually supposed to be initially thinking here is like, oh, she found another way through. But we, as you're going to be telling us,
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she pretty much tells us this copy of 2 reveals that she's just that, a copy, or at least a previous version of the 2 that they know. She tells them that. She explains that the original team was her, number 2, Ethan Forster. This is where we get the actual names. Number 1, Park Soo-hyun, number 3, and Catherine Barnes, number 4. And every time they were lost on an expedition, a new team, I don't know that they used the word cloned, but that's the word I used. They were basically cloned and sent over and over again on this mission. She tells them that when the original team was lost, they were exposed to what they're calling a dark ichor that changed them into zombies, and the horde of zombies have a mission to make each team join them. Is that the way you got the mission, that they wanted them to bring all of them, kill them and make them part of their zombie army?
It works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They
Any other thoughts on that?
want to stop. They want to stop all subsequent teams from making it through.
Yeah.
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 So they have their own
That's-
motives. Yeah.
Okay. And then the next jump takes them to sort of an asteroid hotel, and they run into I think this last issue or 2 really threw me off a little bit. They have this Alice in Wonderland like quartet, a hare, a giraffe, an owl, and a fix, and they say they're ghosts, but I don't understand what their role in the story is. Although the visual was kind of cool, but didn't it remind you of Alice in Wonderland? They're sitting there having tea or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Off with their heads.
Yeah. And then right before they get it through that asteroid, right before the last jump, an injured zombie, although less so because he's been removed from the ichor for a while. He's a zombie version of 3. He triggers a bomb, basically killing himself and taking out a bunch of the other zombies. And then Gaia, also turning out to be a warrior like her uncle Arn, and her pet Key defeat a zombie number 4. And then lastly, another bomb is activated that also opens up the gate, and they finally arrive at their destination at the end of the tale, which takes us back to page 1, like Scott said, to the woman that was sending the distress signal and was very thankful they came.
I really feel like you rushed through that last issue just a little bit.
That's mostly because I didn't understand it.
It was confusing.
Yeah, I did not, and I'll admit I read it 3 times and I still wasn't sure, and it was mostly the art, or maybe an over reliance on the art, as to what was going on.
So
I got
okay, yeah. So at some point we meet what I'm going to call Team 2 of some of the 4 travelers that were there previously, and I kind of get the feeling that they had basically decided, they figured out what was going on, right?
Mhm.
What the people who sent them on this mission, what they were doing, they were really they didn't care about them. It's they, for the most part, you could really say that these clones were just like slave labor, slave explorers, however you want to put it. So they basically wanted to end what was going on, and to do that, they were going to create an explosion inside of these gates that would destroy all of the gates and prevent these forge gates from working at all. So that was ultimately their goal, and what they were trying to do, why that bomb was there, to put a stop to this. And then our current team, where they actually had a number 3 who had been injured, and basically told them everything that they needed to know, that what this other team's plan was, and they were able to then take that bomb and use it for the purposes of destroying this shadow horde and prevent them from destroying the gates that allowed this to actually complete the mission of going through the final gate.
Right. Okay.
least I felt like there's a little bit more to that last part right there. Lots of fighting between the past teams and the current teams and going on, but they just barely get through it, wipe out the horde, and then we have that 2 pages where you meet the character from the very first page.
I made a conscious decision not to comment or speculate on something if I wasn't somewhat sure of it. So
well, that's what this is for. I think it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
This last episode or last issue, I think they really do plan on having. In fact, the last caption says an end and a beginning. So they'll have another volume of this, which I will be getting.
Maybe they might not. I mean, it kind of is self-contained as well. So here's my question, and we talked about the art, and that next to the last panel where you see the city behind this floating figure. That does not look like to me, that looks like a city that's basically been destroyed or in serious decay. I don't know if that's the intent, but that's how I interpret it, because it's been so long. You get that we sent out the message so very long ago. And maybe applying that, hey, we sent out this message and, it could have even been millenniums since since anybody made it to help them. So it's really tough from the way that the art is presented to make a decision. Is that an actual city or is that a destroyed city? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and what is the character from that planet or whatever, are they in like a crater of something that did it get hit with a bomb? It kind of looks like the bottom's opened up. Like, is it is it cracked all the way down? Did something happen like that where, you're right, are they kind of in a ruin at this point?
Which, if I had to say, that's what I would say, is that this is a ruined city.
But if they wanted to make it look ruined, I think they would have made it a little bit more obvious. I mean,
knocked over some of the buildings or something.
Yeah, and maybe just have a couple buildings knocked over, like a Commandy issue or something. But it doesn't look. I guess just the art style. But then again, like you said, all subject to interpretation. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a nice, quick sci-fi story. Sequential art sci-fi. Which I have a general preference to reading. That's what I'm going to read after superhero is sci-fi, as far as my comic book reading goes. And then having met Jeremy Hahn a couple of times, it's nice to pick up something that he has, that's something that he's written. I wish he would draw more, because he's an outstanding artist.
Oh, really?
I would really have preferred to see his artwork on this story. But he's doing a lot of writing now. Still doing art.
Who else does he write for?
Well, he's written for DC, Marvel. He's done work at DC. He's done a lot of horror stuff. There was like a series called Wolf Moon. He drew for Batwoman in New 52. He was there at the end. He was there on the issues that introduced Bluebird. So, like, I have a piece of his original art. And it's funny because in the original art, they have Bluebird here, but from the time he drew the art to when the story actually went to print, they had to actually change it because Bluebird had become a different character. So they had to overlay a different character over the top of Bluebird in his art. So it was actually a different character that saw print from the original art page, which is kind of interesting. So yeah.
Oh, he wrote Berserker? I thought that was Matt Kent.
No, he didn't write Berserker.
Oh, I'm thinking of the different Berserker.
Yeah, but Matt Kent's Berserker.
The vowelless Berserker.
Yeah.
The vowelless one, yeah.
God. Oh, don't act like I was. Yeah, that's an easy mistake to make. The only difference is there's no vowels in that one.
There you go. Yeah. See if I can. I'm trying to remember something like he did a Riddler book. When they did like the villains replace the main idols.
Villain month.
He did one of like I want to say he did like the Riddler one. For that, let's see what else. He's got. I mean, like he has a book called The Realm, The Beauty, which there's been lots of. That's the one where people can become beautiful, but it's at a cost, and eventually, like these people start spontaneously combusting, who have been taking this drug called beauty. That's been talked about for stories. There's another book called Red Mother that's fairly recent. He's done a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to I'm just like flipping through his comics.org page and just looking for something here just to like he did. There's a Captain America story. There's there was an Arkham book.
Reborn.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Arkham Reborn.
He did the art on that.
Mm-hmm. So he does a lot of creator-owned stuff with Image, but yeah, he's done quite a bit of work. So
good deal.
Let me check.
Want to grade it?
I was just making sure I didn't have any other notes on this one before I keep going to the wrong.
I got one big complaint.
Let's hear it.
What's your complaint?
I don't understand why it doesn't count down from 40 seconds. That's a horrible timer to just repeat 40 seconds over and over again. Like, if you hear it the first time or you hear it the third time, it's not 40 seconds still. It's gone down by that time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't deny that. Yeah. It didn't dawn on me. It didn't bother me.
I tripped on it hardcore. I was like, why is this keep just like repeating 40 seconds? That's not helpful.
It's like it was 40 seconds 10 seconds ago. Yes. Now it's
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it would have made the transition. They would have had to have done longer transitions, because if they do it by 5 seconds, then you've got a minimum of 8 panels for that, and some of the transitions aren't 8 panels. And if you go from 40 to 30, then that's too quick, or it's
yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like they were really forcing the it's called 40 seconds because of that, and we're gonna repeat it over and over again.
But if you're what you were saying about the timing, it's like, well, when there was 5 of them, should it have been 50 seconds?
Right. Yes.
All right, grade it. Who wants to go first? I'll go first. I gave it a fine, very fine 7.0. It's in that range where I don't feel like I have to have this on my shelf, but if they do come out with a sequel, I'm absolutely going to read it, so it's right in that range for me of a 7.0 fine, very fine.
What you got, Mike?
I'd give it a 7.5 very fine minus, a little bit higher than Scott's. I know Scott's way of kind of measuring is whether he'd want it on his shelf. I'm just measuring by would I read a sequel? Did it engage me enough to want to know what else is going to happen? And honestly, I'm going to bump it up to 8.0 very fine because of that. Because now I'm intrigued, and the art could be better, I think, or there could be better writing to supplement what the art's not displaying. It's not often I read a story 3 times. I just don't have enough time in the world to do that. I did that because of this podcast, but I think if you had a little bit better storytelling, it probably would be a little bit better. But 8.0, very fine.
I agree with a lot of the things that you just said, Mike. Because just there were a lot of parts of it that was like, man, if the art was a little better, or if the storytelling was a little clearer, I think I would have gotten a little bit more enjoyment out of it. But I would give it a 6.5 fine plus. I think I would read the sequel if you guys were like, let's read the sequel. And if not, I don't know if I would get around to it.
All right.
Well, shall we CLZ it up here?
Let's shake it.
All right. Who wants to go first? Anybody?
I'll go.
All right, you go.
Oh, I gotta shake it first.
Didn't shake it hard enough. Oh, big book.
Walking Dead Compendium 2.
Whoa.
There were a lot of things in this.
What issues did that cover? Was that like 12 or 13 through 24? Or is it more, or is it like 49 through?
It's hundreds in it for sure. Let's see. It's the second 8 volumes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because there's only 4. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's 49 through 96. It's not quite 100.
Okay. All right.
So it's right before the all-out
infamous
war.
Scene, yes.
Yeah, it's
Glenn. It's all before Glenn.
It's pre-Negan, but it's all governor stuff, if I remember right. Is a little bit of that, and that's a lot to cover. But I have all the compendiums. That's the only thing, the only version of all the Walking Deads I have is the compendiums. It's real hard to read a compendium, though. I don't recommend it for reading.
They're to
get an arm workout.
It's a tome. You need
You
to have
lay it on the desk.
Yes, you need to have a big desk that's sort of at an angle, and you take 2 arms to open it up.
Yes, I did it. I did it with those. I did read them out of there, but it was rough.
Yeah, it's not like you can lay in bed. It'll cut your oxygen off. Yeah.
You could have an accent. Well, officer, how did he die? Well, his
he laid his compendium on his chest.
It was like Thor's hammer. Nobody could get it off.
That's right.
I was actually still reading Walking Dead up until that point. This is about 10 or so issues before they jumped the shark for me, and I just had to stop. It just got a little silly. It was just, and I think actually it was issue 100 that was the point where it's like, I think I'm about done with this, and then I read a little more, and I was like, yeah, I'm done with this.
All right, shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Oh, good old Bronze Age. Yo, Batman Family, number 4. And I'm doing a read through. There was 20 issues of Batman Family in the 70s. The first 4 or 5 were mostly, if not completely, reprints. And I just read this in the last 2 or 3 months. It came out in 1976, and it's at this point in Batman Family, it was all Batgirl and Robin stories, plus some old, if that was maybe the new content, if there was any. And then if there was then there would be reprints from the 40s and 50s of Batman. So it was considered a DC giant for 60 cents at that time. And it had, I don't know how many pages, 64 pages. So yeah, Batman Family, which is a lot bigger now. Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. Daredevil, Volume 1, issue 158. So this is historic for being the start of the Frank Miller run on Daredevil.
Okay.
So yeah, so that is why this book is in my collection, because first Daredevil work on the Frank Miller on Frank Miller work on Daredevil proper. He had done a Spectacular Spider-Man issue before with a crossover.
So that's Frank Miller art, or is that Frank Miller writing?
Art. So
okay,
Roger
that's what
McKenzie
I thought. Yeah,
is still writing.
Yeah.
We also get the quote unquote death of Deathstalker. He's this character or this villain who can basically phase. I just shook again, and now I'm back to Power Pack. But he can phase through, and he's phasing through a tombstone and re-solidifies, and it kills himself basically passing through this tombstone. So, and even on their very first page, if I remember correctly, the editorial puts this note about Frank Miller. He's this great talent that you'll be watching out for in the future, So, and they were right, So Daredevil 158.
I have to remember that to get that issue if it's not too high.
It's a little pricey, but not like, it's not like a First Electra pricey. It's up there a little bit. All right, Mike, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, where would they do that at?
It's at the old-fashioned email address. It's m.atchison90@gmail.com.
And before we do that, Shad, you want to tell us what we've got coming on episode 137?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On 137, we are going to be doing the previews for things that you'll order it in August that will ship in October generally. So that will be coming up next. And you can find me at Shad Schubert on Facebook. That's ShaadSchubert.
And I'm Scott Reed. You can find me at burgcomics.com, BURG Comics. And there they have links to my eBay store and Facebook page. And I might as well start talking up September 3rd, Harrisburg, Illinois, Berg Comics Con 2020. About 80% sold out on tables, so looking to be a good show. again this year. Hoping if you're listening and you're in, remote, reasonable driving distance, that you can find the time and make it over. And we'll be back soon with another episode.
Because we talked about doing maybe Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
We had
This week on the Tom King podcast.
that's right.
Yeah, it's only been 45 days since our last Time King
That's right.
podcast. So I do want you guys to read that though.
We had talked about maybe
Which
doing
is
the
that?
Radiant Black, the first volume of Radiant Black.
I'd like to do that.
We need to see when that's going to be on. Is that on
ComiXology?
ComiXology?
Here, I'll pull it up right now. I mean, I don't care to buy comics. I don't care to buy some of these. I do not pay full price for them, but
Right.
But let's see what Radiant Black is right now.
It's $6.29 for the first volume. It's not.
That's fine. And the second volume $6.29, so I'm buying it right now.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll credit up to my password. Thank you. So I'm not buying it right now. I'm clicking sign in, and now I'm getting out my authenticator app for my one-time password,
Oh,
so I can
jeez.
log in.
Holy cow.
Okay, now I gotta log into my phone to get my authenticator app. Oh, now I gotta type in this number because
Oh,
I didn't
my.
do it on my phone. Let's see here. Punch that in. Sign in. It's spinning. Bought. Okay, now I bought it.